As a teacher, I guess the proudest thing you can ever have is a trophy. And our trophies are not ones that sit on shelves, but our trophies are ones that walk around the face of this earth. In 1978, I received a letter from a young man who was in junior high school and expressed his optimism and his enthusiasm and his excitement that next year he was going to be able to come to the high school and play in the high school band. And he did so much more than play in the high school band. He became the conscience of the band. He was a student in high school, a fine drummer. He graduated and went to college for a degree in communication, always keeping his passion for music alive. He played professionally in the Kansas City area. We had the opportunity to play professionally together one season with the Kansas City Chiefs professional football band. His path of work took giant leaps as he went from an independent businessman with a little company called Creative Brainstorms to work for Avila College as their director of communications. It wasn't long before the Suits in Kansas City spotted him, and he was offered a position with the Fleshman-Hillard Public Relations Agency. Since that time, he's been promoted and promoted and promoted. He now serves as Senior Vice President of Fleshman-Hillard Public Relations Company in New York City, where his clients include such people as Visa, Hallmark Cards, Procter & Gamble. The list goes on and on. He still loves music, and when we have an opportunity to speak, he can't wait to tell me about the latest jazz club that he visited in the Big Apple. He has since been invited to become a member of our Board of Trustees. He is in his second year, and I believe I speak for every trustee in saying that he has already made a significant impact on our college. It is with great pride and humility that I present to you our commencement speaker today, John Armato. John.
Opening with some witticism, but it's hard to do through the tears that you've already created. Thank you for that incredible introduction. Tears come easily to me, being half Italian. We also move around and sweat a lot as Italians, so I'm going to take some liberties. To my fellow board members, Dr. Menghini, faculty and staff of VanderCook College of Music, the alumni and students gathered here today, especially today's graduates and their family and friends, thank you for such a warm welcome to your commencement. It's incredibly flattering and also humbling to be asked to talk about a subject that I feel so passionately about. I also want to thank Jennifer for being my opening act today, setting a nice tone. I also want to congratulate everybody who performed today, because I thought the ensemble performances previously were just spectacular. So, I told Dr. Menghini before we came in fact, I was so pleased that he conducted Elsa's procession, because it's a piece of music that genuinely reminds me of how much I believe everything I'm about to share with you. I am a musician. A one-time professional player, a product of private lessons, the public school systems, and briefly a stint at a conservatory of music. I've played drums for bad circuses, has-been 50s acts, and 3-day polka festivals. I also spent some of the most rewarding 11 weeks of my life as a member of the Disneyland All-American College Band. I've toured parts of Russia, and I've recorded with jazz musicians who have elevated my own playing beyond recognition. And I damn near became a band director. You see, I was a student in one of Dr. Menghini's high school bands, as he mentioned, and that's where I really began to come alive in so many ways. But ultimately, after a lot of angst and everything I do is after a lot of angst. I decided on a degree in another field I feel very passionate about, communications. And through a circuitous route, I have ended up where Dr. Menghini said, one of the world's largest public relations firms. So you would think that a communications professional would know just where to begin a speech like this. But I've wrestled with it for weeks. Then it hit me. Here's the best place to start. I was born May 19th, 1964. Oh God, is he really going to start there? My wedding was December 27th, 1991. I moved into the first house I ever owned on August 28th, 1998. And my very first drum lesson was Wednesday, May 27th, 1972. You see, of all the really important, significant dates in my life, I consider my first drum lesson, my first encounter with a music teacher, to be one of the absolute most significant. It's a date I truly remember as easily as I remember my own birthday. And not just the date, but the exact time of the lesson, the address of the studio, the way it smelled, and what it felt like walking into it that first day, with my very first pair of pristine Regal Tip 5As, an unblemished copy of Joel Rothman's Reading Rudiments and Rolls. So as a beneficiary of music teachers, not as a fellow teacher, not as a veteran educator, not necessarily as a professional player, but as a human being whose life has simply been all the more amazing because of music teachers, I'm here to tell you the only thing I'm really qualified to tell you, which is that what you do matters. I believe what you do matters for three reasons. You teach people skills that are important. You teach people that they are important. And you teach people that beauty is important. The first idea goes beyond the technical ability to play music. Music education cultivates both interpersonal and personal skills that are important no matter else what a person may do later on in life. Listening, sharing, balancing, communicating, these are rare interpersonal skills, but they're inherent and essential in the music education experience. A study in 1985 showed that Americans say they had only 3 close friends. Now, in an updated version of that same study published last month in the American Sociological Review, they say they have only 2. Personally, I don't find this surprising. There are an astonishing array of opportunities for virtual experiences. I'm not knocking them, from email relationships to iPods, and the ubiquitous cell phone, which if you find 4 teenagers gathered, 3 of them will have a cell phone to their ear. But these opportunities have reduced the way people engage face-to-face and person-to-person. And what you teach, I believe, is a communal art, and it has the power to fundamentally affect the way people relate to each other. In fact, in a wonderful documentary called Music from the Inside Out, one of the members of the Philadelphia Orchestra goes so far as to say that music making is community. And I can tell you from the perspective of the business world, there's not a single organization I've come into contact with in the past 20 years that isn't interested in hiring someone who's capable of listening, collaborating, creating, sharing, communicating. That is the interpersonal currency of today's world, but it's a currency that ironically is scarce in a world where people are becoming increasingly isolated and communities increasingly fragmented. Now, music is, of course, also a very personal pursuit. About a week ago, I was just talking about this with Dr. Menghini yesterday. I told one of my dearest friends since 7th grade, Mike Coleman, that I was getting ready for today, and I asked him how music had educated him. And I should start with a little story about Mike. Mike came into band his freshman year as a clarinet player. He had already studied piano for years as a kid. His parents were just absolute classical music freaks. As a matter of fact, his nickname in band was Mozart, I think courtesy of Dr. Menghini, because his parents asked him to be excused from rehearsals so they could take him to a Mozart concert. And I think he'd studied a little violin as well. But he came into the band playing clarinet. Well, 1 year on the marching band field playing clarinet convinced Mike of one thing. He'd rather be a trumpet player. But he didn't have the money to buy a trumpet and to take lessons. But Mike is an extremely resourceful and cerebral person. He's a warm and gentle and talented person, and he practices thinking the way other people practice golf. So he reasoned, I already know how to read music. I already know how to breathe. Once I get a trumpet, I can develop my embouchure. So really, logically, all that leaves is the fingerings. So Mike took a block of wood. He hammered 3 nails into it, bought a method book, and spent his summer learning to play trumpet on a block of wood.